We are going live, man. That's cool. We are live.
And we're live.
Nice. Yes.
Hey, everybody. Uh, this is Avais Kamran. Welcome to our very new podcast, weekly podcast, and we're calling it the Engineering Edition. Scene. So I would like to introduce my co-host with you, all the way from Germany, Berlin, Anton Churyn, and he's working as a staff engineer at Delivery Hero. And he has got some very cool side hustles for himself. And we'll dig into a few of those as we talk, as we make our way through this podcast. So, how you doing, Anton? How's
I'm doing
life?
good.
I
Thanks
like
for intro. Yeah.
I like your mic.
It was
I like how the way it
thank
sounds.
you. I like your mic, man. Likewise. I'm doing good. Actually, thanks for intro and small presentation of me. Yeah, my name is Anton. I have been working in Delivery Hero for 2 years, and I have the few side projects. One is not so successful, and one is just we are working on it right now, especially an AI based just topic where we are trying to improve just HR experience for the people like me, you, just everyone to find the best job,
Yeah,
the dream job, which we imagine every
awesome,
day. Yeah, this is me. Yeah, this is me.
awesome. Everybody's doing something around an AI startup these days. That's like a thing. It's like a thing.
I
It's
think I
what it
think
is.
it's actually cool, right? Because you're exploring just new, how do you say it, new, just hidden parts, and actually
Yeah.
you can benefit a lot, especially for the AI. And a lot of people using the Chat GPT, some of them against it. But if you
It's been a
can
crazy
automate
year.
the routine, yeah, just automate some stuff
Yeah.
where you're not good at, and you can for free or not for free, if you just have some paid subscription, I can gain a bit
Yeah.
more experience and save the time. I think this is more valuable resource in our life. It's the time, and not able to buy it, right?
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Crazy times. It reminds me of the browser wars in 90s. Similar time, similar energy, similar passion amongst the, engineers and the whole community in general. So it's kind of cool. So, moving on to our the topic of our very first episode is what is a staff engineer role? But before we actually get on to uh, discussing it in detail, I think it's it would be great to highlight the fact that a lot of these roles that you see are like they really depend on the companies and they really depend on the organizations you're working in. Uh, they also depend on the nature of the company, whether it's a product company, whether it's a startup, whether you're in services. So normally, generally, what you'll see is like a lot of different companies start from. I have a few notes for you guys and for Anton as well. So I just did a bit of a homework. I swear I didn't ask ChatGPT for this. So it starts from associate software engineer, then you become a software engineer, then you become a senior software engineer, and after that, there's this role of staff engineer. Some companies do it a bit differently. They totally ditch the associate post or role, and they start with software engineer, then you become a senior, and then you become staff. Uh, then there's this another big company that I sort of digged into, and how they do it is you get to be a software engineer first, then you become a senior, then you become a principal, then you become staff. So we have like multiple trajectories to the staff engineer role, and there might be different myths around it. There are certain confusions around it. So we'll try to sort of demystify some bits of it, and we'll try to help you understand what the role is and how you can approach this role if you're like a senior engineer at the point of your career, and also some of the uh, advantages and disadvantages. Uh, Me being an ex staff engineer from one of the companies where I briefly worked, I'll sort of share my experience as well. And Anton's here. It's been 2 years that he's been dealing with being a staff engineer. So let's talk about it. So Anton,
Okay.
amongst all these trajectories, how much do you sort of agree with these trajectories, and how do you see that a role like a staff engineer can be approached? Just add a little bit of intro of what are the expectations, and we can take it from there.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I think just I don't prefer to treat it as a title, right? Because it
Hmm.
basically coming from the needs, right? Do you need
Yeah,
someone on this position to deal with the bigger problem?
yeah,
And you can call it as you wish, a tech lead, a staff engineer, principal, or distinguished or whatever. It depends, especially for the company needs, the size, and some sort of the, let's call it, company philosophy, right? Because if you're strictly tech company, you need a lot of the engineers,
yeah,
right? And someone who might need to coordinate them or other things. And some of the companies can be, I don't know, just third-party providers or middleware proxy for some other companies, and probably don't need a huge hierarchy of the technical in the technical side on the IC track, right? And in this case, just to
it's a
be the staff
choice.
engineer,
That so it's like a
yeah,
choice.
it's like a choice. And especially if we're talking overall about the staff engineer, it's also just a lot of trade-offs, because it no definition to be the staff engineer in one way, right? And
Yeah,
we have just a lot of resources and books will point out is have some archetypes. And
yeah,
guys, if you
yeah,
experience
yeah.
just when you are staff engineer and you have no coding, it's totally fine. It's just some of the archetype we could feel comfortable, absolutely, and deal with it.
That's that's like a polite way of saying that you're not gonna code.
Actually, it's just
You
feeling like the M job,
you don't
but you're
you
still
you don't
pretty
have to
technical.
sugarcoat it.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So you're not gonna code much, or you're gonna
I'm
you're gonna
coding
code
much.
less,
I'm coding
right?
much, yeah. And yeah, it depends on a lot of factors. And moreover, I prefer to be, just more, let's call it supervisor, and
Yeah,
just educate other people, just as some sort of to be multiplier, but not every time you have this, let's call it, opportunity or challenge, right? Sometimes you need just to make your hands duty or help the team where they not knowledgeable, or I don't know, some other just is pretty tough deadlines, or it's overcommitment or whatever, any situation. And for the staff engineer, it's just a vital thing. It's to be pretty flexible, right? Because you are in
yeah,
between. At the moment, you're on the level where it's some sort of the middle management, where you have just executives above you, and you have the people who dealing with the day-to-day job every day just below you, right, or under you. And you as a proxy should just juggle a lot of things at the same time, and just, how to say, just be patient and just keep it positive as much as you can, and just
yeah.
do your job in the best way. And just my concern, just be professional, guys. Be professional. It you and try to be kind.
Don't throw stuff around. So,
That makes sense.
so let's talk about the fact, when we talk about senior engineers, it's always like a common trajectory. Whenever we start as a software engineer, it's like first you're dealing with a set of problem, just like micro set of problem, and you're just trying to solve that. You can call it a feature, you can call it multiple feature sets, but your scope is pretty much uh, defined or very diluted in terms of uh, your peers or your seniority, of course. But as you become a senior software engineer, then you become responsible for a whole organization, or a chunk of the organization, not the whole organization. You become responsible for certain people, which you can call a team. Uh, Given that if you're a team lead, of course. So one adds uh, sort of, different aspects to that particular role whenever you sort of jump onto senior software engineer. Now you're dealing with multiple people. Now you're responsible for their mentorship. Uh, with staff roles, in my experience, it's more about dealing with leadership. So that's like the increment you get when you land to that organization, and you're sort of sitting in between your team or multiple teams and multiple project managers. So Anton, how was your experience with dealing with multiple project managers? Because
That's
sometimes they can be
absolutely
hard.
true. Yeah,
Sometimes they can be hard.
it's
Like
pretty hard. It's the gamble.
because
Yeah.
it's a yeah, that's a perfect way to say that. Because
Yeah.
as a product manager, obviously you can pitch a lot of stuff which may not be feasible by your infrastructure or your product in general. So how's that experience for you like bridging the gaps, if I may say?
Yeah. That's fair question. I prefer to take it as a you must be some kind of the you have to influence other people, and you're on the spot where you should point out a lot of the problem and create opportunities for others. And create opportunities for others, it's not about your team or teams, right? Because you can have the different hierarchy, just verticals, domains, just you can call whatever, it depends on the company. And just the main idea
Yeah,
of the staff engineer is to provide the bigger impact, right? Because when you're the senior engineer, let's call it in general, right? Not in the fun companies,
yeah.
you're more or less dealing with the product development, more or less. And when you're the staff
Or
engineer,
features,
all
small
features,
features. Yeah,
exactly. And when you're this on a staff role, you're trying to point it out in a bit bigger picture. Just what if we do just X? How it just be just what is the benefit? And the benefit could be just reduce the something, reduce the engineering cycle, the downtime, just you will decrease the delivery cycle or anything. And you're trying to think more about the product, about the business. And you're just this is the translation from just technical person to someone who'll just think a lot about the domain, what challenges they have, and you need to become a strong stakeholder, let's call it counterpart, when you just absorb the all how to say just the main ideas and biggest bets for upcoming future,
yeah,
and try to convince and just I don't know just transfer it to the some kind of the possible technical solution or bets or the guide your product counterparts how to do it in the best shape, right?
yeah,
Because in a staff engineer it's really tricky not to make a final guess, because you should guide the managers, the product managers, what is the options you have, what is the trade-offs, how to deal with it, what's the downsides, upsides, because you are not able to see the full picture, right? Because probably your stakeholders can, I don't know, have some plans upfront for the 1 year, 1.5 year. And with
yeah.
this data, they can make a better bet. And you, how to say it, your job, day-to-day job, is to guide them, just to be this light in the darkness and guide your team, create opportunities, and be the strong counterpart.
Don't you feel like when it becomes all about the numbers, then the engineering part is compromised? I
It's
feel that way.
actually not true. How to say it? Uh, it's hard to
Not in
explain,
not
but it's
entirely, but as we said, it's like a gamble, and it's a
yes,
trade off.
exactly.
And obviously, that's whenever uh, we're going for numbers or we're chasing numbers, and what we have seen for the last almost 2 years up till now, the layoffs, global layoffs, and shutting down of major startups and stuff like that. So numbers do matter eventually, for at least the big tech.
True, that's true. But here's, just a double down about the numbers. It's how you will explain these numbers, right? You can show the people the cool charts, the numbers. No one have any
Hmm.
clue what is going on, what is the numbers, how they appear, what we did
Yeah.
and why it is accident, not accident. And in this case, it's the best way to have some kind of the context, vision, and transparency. And if you show people, okay, yeah, we need just improve the user experience, right? What we can do, how we can decrease the numbers, which kind of numbers. But these numbers could be metric, I don't know, something, right? Something behind, and you can call it as you wish. And this is the terminology which on the all layers you should position yourself differently with the same context, right? Because for the manager,
Yeah.
it's not interesting what you will deal with the CDN or in infrastructure optimization or just whatever you
Exactly.
like. But for them, and they're really interested in the number. The stakeholders interested in a product, our clients. It's all think about the client, what the client will benefit, what the client will pay you more, pay more satisfaction, just less retention, less churn, less lot of things. And if you will just see this is just some number, let's just reduce 10 from 10 to 5, what is behind? And if the people able to explain to the other people in a meaningful way what is the process, why it's important, the people have some kind of the mission. They see the
Right.
final step, and maybe they can make from 10 to 2 because they know more.
Yeah. So here's a quick question about that. For example, a lot of people have this understanding, people within the tech sector, obviously, that it's your product managers who actually, pave the road in these big tech firms, specifically, that they pave the road for the product. Uh, in the mix, when you have a staff engineer, how does that thing work? Do you actually get that leverage to sort of change some ideas, or how is that, how does that work out with your experience?
It's at the beginning it's really hard because you have just influence. You don't have authority. You don't have the fancy title. It's all about the influence, right?
Yeah.
And you're not able to say yes or no. You should just have the how to say it, the good pros and cons to
You
influence.
should do
Just
your
think
homework.
about, yes, it's a lot of homework and a lot of about just not a problem solving. It's creative problem solving because you don't have
Yep.
anything written yet. Absolutely. And you're making some kind of the bets through your experience. You're collecting some data, maybe some magic number, and you're trying to make a guess or predict the future a bit. And with all
Seeing in the
these,
dark.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's really complicated because some of the things could be just not just they couldn't exist for some reason.
Yeah.
And you
Got it.
also see how you can improve, right? In the next step, for example, the next time I want to have this data, or how we can just create some way to have this data next time. Because I would say making the bets when you have no data at all, it's really complicated, especially when some you have tough deadlines and you need decision yesterday. It could be tricky where you can make just really interesting bets and then just make your hands duty to rewrite a lot of things because of just you're guided in a different way.
Decision and delivery yesterday. It's like a common joke.
It's common joke,
But
yeah. Just
but yeah, I agree. To we can take like one point over here, like so staff engineers can sort of validate product managers and the road they pave
they should.
for the organization. Yeah, obviously, but that's the power game. That's where the gamble sticks, and that's why uh, the staff role is kind of a role where you should have those pressure tactic skills, is to sort of really bring out your cards, lay them out, and sort of debate on the fact that, this might work, this might just not work.
Yes.
And all right, so let's talk about a few downsides. So we talked about responsibilities, we talked about scope, we talked about, how a staff engineer really has that kind of influence, where they can influence their product managers, leadership, the team, and you can drive a lot of decisions. And the most common expectation is creating an impact. So let's sort of talk about this a bit. So normally, if you're sitting in there with your manager, the most common thing that you're gonna hear is, you should have an impact as a senior software engineer, or you should have an impact on the team as a staff engineer. What is this impact that everybody talks about? Like, how do you explain it in the most simple words? How to actually
Most, I think this impact, what I treated, what just at the end, it's all about the money right behind. And this impact, it's how you will help the organization, the team, the individuals, to your manager to let's say just improve this number, because I don't know just we should decrease this number or increase this number.
and
And
they don't
they
know the way out,
exactly
or the
exactly
right
no one
direction.
knows, and you can do it both ways. This is the impact.
And so driving the numbers, to drive the numbers, you really can validate your product managers. For to drive the number, you can create some good mentorship program for your team. And to drive the numbers, you can sort of make sure that if there are gaps within the administration, within the team, you can fill those up. And probably, if we wrap all of this up, this is basically the impact, right?
Exactly.
Okay, got your point. All right, let's talk about the downsides of being a staff engineer. Do you first? It's more like a two-part question. Do you believe every senior software engineer can be a successful staff engineer?
It's a tricky question. It's exactly the same as to
It's a
transition from the
controversial
senior
question.
manager to the some kind of the manager track. It's just no yes or no answer. If you're comfortable, how to say, to be the with the close base scope, to have a clear borders and boundaries in the team, and you enjoy it, maybe it's not just the good way, but for the staff engineer, it's to be, how to say it, uh, you will start, how to say it, you will own not only the people, right? You are leading more than the people, more than the one team or the
Yeah.
vertical, and you are seeking for opportunities a lot, right? You're just looking, turn around, just you ask a lot of people, a lot of
Not
colleges.
just for your department, but also for your team
Exactly,
in general. And
exactly.
also to reroute them if required.
Yes. And it's a lot of
Got it.
overwhelming things where you should be, how to say it, you're probably more under pressure than anyone else, because you don't have the clear vision what you have to do, honestly, because it's no the clear guide what the staff engineer could do in the company. Because if you're in the team,
Yeah,
right, you have the stakeholders, it's pretty
that's
just close based.
yeah, that's also like one point for everybody who's listening. There's no right way of becoming a staff engineer. It's it varies from company to company. It varies from uh, business to business. It varies from country to country, uh, or
Exactly.
especially for the
And
tech
funk to
sector.
funk.
Right. So, downsides of being a staff engineer. So, I've got a list of my own here. So, the very first at the top and the most popular opinion that you'll get is like limited hands on coding. And second one is increased administrative responsibility. This is the reason because of which you actually don't get to code that much. You're more you're more like sitting in between the leadership and the product managers and the product managers and your team. And when I say team, they can be multiple teams, not just one department. Can be multiple departments. So that's true. The third point is pressure expectations. as Anton, you also stated that you should have like a thick skin
Yep.
because you'll need it. You'll need it. Uh, and fourth point is your success actually depends on your team's performance. You might be a good staff engineer. You might be, you know, doing great at your end, but if your team's not performing, as Anton also stated, that sometimes it's more about numbers, and every business out there, it is about numbers. So it's like a fair game. The leadership, the business, uh, the stakeholders, not business stakeholders, for them, it's all about the numbers. And obviously, finding that sweet spot where you can sort of sit in between and sort of make the best of the world for everybody, it's kind of a hard thing to do. But yeah, that's the game. Anton, your points.
My points is pretty different from you. Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah,
Uh
just the main downside, it's the time management, and not the
huh.
pure time management, because
Hmm.
you're stay in between where you should create opportunities and make impact, and from the other hand you must support the others. This is
Ah,
the biggest trade-off, where you don't, how to say it,
get time
you
for
haven't
yourself.
been yet. Yes, exactly, how to say it. And sometimes it's more preferable to help others, because you can unblock, let's assume, the entire team, or just push it a big forward, rather than you will take some operational excellence or other things. It's just more valuable. And this understanding what the right thing you should do and plan it, it's also really, how to say it, difficult, especially when you're, how to say it, you should stay flexible. And as you all may know and may experience, this is some kind of the change in requirements. We are moving in another direction. It could happen in every business, and especially in the startups, it's a lot, where
Yeah,
you are
obviously.
finding, for example, product market fit or anything, or based on the user feedback on some incidents, and you're jumping a lot. And this context switching, it's pretty expensive for everyone, especially for the just well-being. It's just complicated, and also need to experience with it. That's for sure. And the last one is just a trade-off of the work-life balance, because when you're starting the process where you're thinking too deep and too much on the broader picture, where you have limited information, it's pretty hard. And this is the greatest learnings. It's learn how to plug it off, to not be overwhelmed all the time.
Yeah, true. So basically, as a staff engineer, the only task you have is to sort of uh, be involved in long-term strategic decision making, and that trickles down to everything else that we sort of talked about. It's kind of obviously, speaking of the role, it is a impactful role with a great influence. Let's talk about like the scale of companies. Obviously, if you're speaking of Amazon, Meta, definitely it makes sense to have staff engineers and senior staff engineers as well, because you have so many layers of people working for you. Uh,
True.
let's say if you have like a 100 plus, or like up to 300, 500 people headcount within a company, how would you lay out a trajectory for them? Does it make sense to have a staff role for them?
Absolutely. And it's, how to say it, it's not yes or no, but it's absolutely worth it. If you at least 500 people, I think you need more than the staff engineer. And the main idea where you have the big scale, not as fun, for example, you have just 1,000 people. And where you have the thin layer, where you have engineers and engineering manager and, for example, QA and product just isolated, it's cool, but your product is growing every day, right? Everyone making
Yeah.
this features, any additions, anything. And at some point, you need some sort of the coordinator who pretty much just just well enough to just coordinate, especially with the domain knowledge and with the product knowledge, where you can, for
Right.
example, the guide two teams. And then
Right.
you have one level of abstraction where you have some kind of the coordinators who can jump in and support the other people. And when you have, for example, the department, for example, you have logistic and you have some, I don't know, just advertisement or AI or anything, you have multiple departments. And it's even more complicated because now you need the people who can coordinate these people because this is one product.
Yeah.
And you need one more level of abstraction. And it becomes just more and more complicated with this hierarchy at a scale. Because at the beginning, you pretty fair enough just to have the tech lead who will just lead by example the entire team and everyone will be happy with that.
Good point. That translates right into one of the questions that we have is line manager and staff manager the same? That's exactly what Anton just said, that it depends, even if you're working in like 100 plus or 500 plus uh, company with obviously that kind of a headcount. No, I don't think so. They're the same because staff engineer can be the manager of your line manager. I hope that makes sense. Is that right,
Yeah,
Anton?
it's just just yes or no. It could be the some cases in some companies, especially because they see there's some reason or benefit to do it. But more or less, I prefer to see it as a hierarchy where you're growing just in a both in a manager track and IC track, right?
Yeah.
Where how to say it, when you go up, just you have a bit how to say it, next level of interaction. Because if you're the, for example, staff role, you're mostly working with the manager plus senior manager. The senior manager will take a lot of the context, a lot of the challenges and opportunities, and your engineering managers as a counterpart. The next level, you will work with the just directors or just maybe VPs or VPs on the
Yeah.
engineering or anything, a bit more
Business
context and a bit
folks in
more.
general.
Yeah. And it grows as is. And in this case, if you just line manager it could be the same. I know there's some companies treating this after the senior role, you can go or staff role or manager role. In some companies, I know you
Normally,
can go from the middle engineer to the manager.
yeah.
It's also fine.
Normally, in my experience, what I've seen is like some companies they tend to have a principal spot after the senior spot, and uh, these principals, engineer, or s- uh, s- software architects in general act as like a glue with the
Yep.
business and the team or your line managers eventually. But with as the organizations grow beyond like 500 count or like 1,000, obviously there are challenges in terms of coordination, and that's where a staff role is the most effective. And that's why you'll see a lot of opportunities around the staff role with the big tech companies only. All right. Another question would be that does it make sense for startups to have a staff role, given like you're just your company working with a headcount of like under 100, let's say?
I think it depends on the just technical excellence because a lot of the startups will start with the one pretty great, the senior engineer. He absolutely
True.
just the main expert, and then you will
The guy.
grow.
He's
Yes, the rock star, the one of
a
the
rock
rock
star.
star. And in any case, how to say it, at a scale, you need the people who will be more closer to the people who will care about your customers, right? Or about your solution.
True.
And for example, if you have 100 people, it's pretty complicated to at least have the one-on-one, right? With all these people. And what you're
Yeah.
trying to do to create some kind of the abstraction to simplify your work. This is just the main idea and the reason behind, because you're trying to be a multiplier And when you're growing, it's just becoming more harder and harder because you have influence without just its influence in the dark, right? You don't need what will happen just in a few layers next.
True. Got it.
One more question.
Or yeah, one more question. I see as staff manager, most of the time, managers start doing micromanagement without knowing how to resolve that kind of an issue.
Oh, this
I
that's cool
think
topic.
that's like another podcast, 40
No,
minutes,
no.
45 minutes.
I have a really clear and simple answer. It's just if you have some kind of the staff manager or just how to say just engineering manager who is doing micromanagement, I think it's not good, not bad. Just it's this person need the guidance how to make
Manage
a
a team.
skill shift from to do the work and care about the people who used to do the work you do, right? And in this case, this person needs support to be more trustable and just delegate more because these people trying to stay too close to the some implementation things, and in some point of time it could create a chaos because the manager actually not doing the proper job because they should care about the business communication with the stakeholders, the some visionary transparency, and care about the people, just support them, not just to
True.
supervising the all technical solution, all technical decision inside the team.
I think micromanagement is a separate topic in itself. And
Next
again,
podcast.
as Anton said, a separate podcast, series of podcasts. That
Series of
can be
podcast.
that can be like one season. We should do it after this one.
Okay, makes
Definitely,
sense.
for sure. All right. So we covered quite a lot of ground here. So do you have like any final remarks regarding whether if you get a call from your manager and he tells you and you're doing great as a senior software engineer, let's say, and you're working fine or you're working as an architect, and if you get a job and if you get a call from your manager, right, he's like, we want to promote you to a staff role because you're doing great. uh, what would be your conclusive remarks for people or advice, whether they should take up this role or what kind of attributes they should have to take up this role or how they should prepare themselves?
That's a great question. I would recommend just to ask 5 whys of yourself why you want this role, and ask the manager or the person who proposed you the promotion exactly the same, just 5 whys, to better understand the context and some kind of the not requirements, to some sort of the expectations from you,
Yeah,
because the people more or less can see the potential in someone and offer some kind of the promotion or not promotion, and you should be aware about, for example, do we have anyone else in this role which I can have as a mentor or role model, or just ask how it's like, just to be more, how to say it, more stay more objective.
true.
And in this case,
That's
just
good.
ask a lot of questions to yourself and to your manager, just to have as clear picture as you can before make any commitment.
True. That's good advice. Because remember, this role of being a staff engineer, uh, you'll be working closer to the leadership, your manager, and probably less time with your team. Uh, but your team is your responsibility, and that's the tricky part. And that's where you'll have to do a lot of anxiety and pressure management, I would say.
That's for sure. That's for
Right.
sure. Actually, I have a question from
So,
my side, Awais, for you and for me. Just what is the
oh,
top 3
both of them.
things about being staff software engineer from your standpoint?
What is like what? Sorry,
Just
I
top
lost
3
you.
things. Just top 3
Oh,
things. Just pros, not the cons. Just pros to be
pros.
the staff engineer. Yes.
I would always choose impact and the influence, obviously, because when I remember working as a software engineer and complain about a lot of things about the processes, why is that happening like this? Why is that happening like that? And question a lot of product decisions myself, and obviously that leads up to some kind of frustration as well. When you're in a staff engineer role, you have that kind of influence of saying no, of or if you see a problem, you can fix it instantaneously. So it's a common like a quote when they say that be a manager that you didn't get, or be a manager that you always aspired to have. uh, I think you can bring it to reality when you're a staff engineer, because you have a say in product decisions, you have a say in the infrastructure, you have a say in terms of processes around day in day out activities, I would say. Uh, so the influence part is obviously at the top of my list in terms of your question. The second thing is the impact. Uh, so as being a software engineer or senior software engineer, you can run into multiple issues, multiple situations where you don't have a way out, where you do need an advice, or you're like in a dire need of an advice, but you just sort of figure things out for yourself. And for some people, again, that can be uh, anxiety stricken, that can be hard to deal with. But as a staff engineer, you can always foresee such people within your team, and you can help them, you can lend a hand, you can have that kind of an impact, you have a full autonomy to create that kind of an ecosystem. And as far as business context is concerned, that depends, because it depends on other variables as well, whether you can impact the business part.
Yep,
uh,
that's
yeah,
true.
these are like two major cons, pros,
Pros
that I can think of.
or cons, up to you.
Cons. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's
But
cool. That's
just a
cool.
bit of an advice from my own experience. I worked as a staff engineer briefly in one of my previous companies, and for me, I was always a diehard engineer or a programmer by heart, and I still love to code. And I believe that if I'm gonna be in leadership roles eventually, I would still choose to code, because that's what keeps me going. And I found that there are a lot of challenges associated with the staff role, because you're coding less and you're more deep into the administrative tasks. And sometimes they can tip you off, sometimes they can make you less motivated. So it depends on your personality or your aspirations as a software engineer as well. Do you
Such a true
agree
thing,
or
man.
do you disagree?
I agree. I agree. For me, how to say it, the process of to be the staff engineer, I think it's a lot of, as you said, this influence, but I can call it differently. Just lead by example. It's this really hard thing
Yeah.
which you must polish, where you're the, how to say, the front gatekeeper, and you're trying to help everyone and lead anything and something go not as expected or just tough times, and you are just taking all ownership in your own hands and drive
Yeah.
it. And I enjoy this driven mode. I think the second one for me, it's some sort of the R&D, because it's not a casual development and you are spending a lot of time to dive or too broad or too deep to the specific problem, knowledge, domain, or anything, just to understand it more. It is also cool where you can share this knowledge with others. It means you spend, for example, 1 week, I don't know, 2 weeks, 1 month, 1 quarter, and you can translate all your learnings in, I don't know, few sessions to the some
Yeah.
people. Then they don't need to learn all your they can learn from your failures, but they don't need to do it exactly the same way.
That sort of comes under the impact window. So yeah, cool
Yeah, it's
stuff.
also impact. Yeah, but it's also cool when you're just constantly in R&D mode. It's a bit, how do you say it? As you said, it's exhausted. You can be exhausted any point of time because you are doing too much research. and your brain constantly trying
Yeah.
to process the tons of information to catch the edge cases. You're going to some, I don't know, documents, no documents, coding, anything. But it's fun. It's come with a lot of fun. And the last one, I think it's the opportunity to find a lot of people
Are you
and
sure?
network
Are
with
you sure
them.
you're? Are you sure you don't have tears in your eyes while saying that?
Or which, what exactly?
So, to all the staff engineers, get a shrink. You'll need it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Sure, for sure,
Absolutely.
for sure. Absolutely. All right. I think we're 45 minutes in. My LED light just switched off. That's an indicator that we
Okay.
should conclude.
Yeah, let's wrap
And
up.
yeah, thank you, Anton, for your time. It was cool
Thank
talking
you.
to you. And for everybody watching, this will be, we'll try our best to make it a weekly thing to come up with like one topic that is like a pain point, and we'll try to address it in our software engineering ways with the little bit of experience that we both have. And yeah, don't forget to check out Anton's LinkedIn profile. He's been doing some great stuff. And if you have any questions, you can directly sort of DM me or DM Anton. Would be happy to help you guys. And yeah, just stay tuned for the next topic for the next week, and we'll catch you guys soon. Do you have any concluding remarks, Anton?
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for the great sessions, and thanks for the all participants to stay with us until the end. Thanks for the great questions, and I hope we will share more insights and our failures, which you can easily learn from. Just stay tuned. Just add us, DM us if you have any topics or the questions. Also propose some topics which may be
Yeah,
interesting for
always,
you.
always
See the
welcome.
advice.
Always
Yeah, welcome, guys.
perfect. So that's us, guys. See you guys soon. See you, Anton. Have a great
See you.
afternoon and evening.
Your evening.
Yeah, definitely. Take care. Bye, guys.
Take care, guys. Bye.